Like we got people coming in. Thanks for joining, guys. Just wanted to introduce, we've got Daniel Cross from Verse. He is the Director of Business Development. Super cool guy. And we've got Daniel Kim from Shape CRM. They're going to be talking to you guys a little bit about some bad lead habits that you need to break like yesterday, especially coming into 2021 where it's really hard to plan a strategy and with a pandemic going on. And yeah, so take it away, guys.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. I'm also a super cool guy, so a fellow Daniel. Just wanted to
Confirmed.
point that out. All right.
Confirmed. Thank you.
I'm horrible at intros.
Thank you so much, Megan, and thank you, Daniel, for jumping on here with me. We actually, Daniel and I met on like the last hurrah before the whole thing shut down at the AIM Fuse event. The Association of Independent Mortgage Experts had a big show in Irvine, like on, what was it, like March 7th or something, and it was the day before everything just completely shut down. You remember that, Daniel?
Yeah, I do. It was, like you said, it was the last conference that I attended, and I'm glad I went. And yeah, it's amazing how time changes so quickly.
Yeah, and so when Daniel and I and Shape and I were talking about what could we do to add some value at the end of this year, what can we do to, what do we know about that other people might want to know that would help them in 2021? And one of the things that we both kind of hit on that made sense that we could share with people to help them is 5 habits that you have right now with your leads that you should break, things that you should change in 2021 to increase lead conversion. And Shape software, Shape CRM works in a ton of different verticals and offers a really, really cool software. And obviously they know some of the mistakes you're making right now because they talk to people who are making mistakes every day. And I'm with Verse, and Verse is a 24/7 lead engagement team, a human concierge to help engage new leads and follow up with leads. And we do a lot of syncing with CRM. So we've synced with Shape. And so we thought we could offer something to you guys. I'm going to pull up a screen share here so I can present the 5 bad lead habits that you should break in 2021. So I'll pull it up now.
Yeah, and I want to add that Verse is a great service that leverages technology as well, and it synchronizes with our CRM. So really, it's building a foundation of technology for your business where you're not doing things manually, as a lot of people will do, which is fine. It's just that if you have these capabilities and these tools available to you, why not? I mean, if you just look at the palm of your hand, you're holding a smartphone, which is a mini computer. So everyone is using technology today. And so they're not using a regular phone, they're using a smartphone. So that's the same concept here.
Yeah, so I want to just kick off we brainstormed and came up with 5 things that we think could add value to you guys, and 5 things that you can kind of institute fairly quickly and have rolling for 2021 that's going to improve lead conversion for you. So we'll kick it off. The first one we came up with was the stop calling first. And Daniel, I'd like your take on this. I can give kind of our perspective. Verse has been basically following up with leads for about 8 years. We've gone through a couple different iterations, but we've been trying to get a hold of leads for a very long time now. And there was a big change in 2018, around 2017, 2018, when robo-dialers started becoming ubiquitous, and when smartphones, as you just mentioned, started becoming the norm. People stopped answering their phones, right? Like your phone rings right now. If your phone rings right now, and you take a look and it's an unknown number, what are the chances that you just pick it up, right? So what Verse is and what Verse has figured out over, however many leads that, we've been working for all these years, is that the response rate for texts is so much higher than it is for a phone call after a lead is submitted. So against kind of the popular ideas of call and the old school, boiler room, making phone calls, making 100 dials a day or $100 an hour or whatever it is. we found that there's a much more effective way to do this. And texting is also automated texting is also available through Shape, right, Daniel?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with regards to phones, a lot of people find it to be disruptive because they're in the middle of something, their phone rings, and it's that kind of knee-jerk reaction where they feel compelled to pick it up. But nowadays, as you said, because it's disruptive, they just easily click on the voicemail button, or they just dismiss that call. So I think you're going to allude to this anyways, but text messaging seems to be much more beneficial because it empowers the recipient of that text message to get back to that person when they're ready.
Yeah, we found exactly what you just said, which is when we were just calling, we were getting people sending us straight to voicemail. There is kind of a key that we've figured out, which is rather than sending a text that's automated that just says, "Hi, thanks for submitting a form." One of the things that we do that we found a huge amount of success with is on the first text, you say, "Hi, this is Alex with, whatever the company is. We saw you're interested in learning more." And we give them an option. We say, "Do you want to hop on a call or do you want to continue via text?" And what you get is a huge response rate of people saying, text is fine, or, call me now. But even better, or even more illuminating is they go, "I can't talk right now. I'm at work or I'm driving or whatever it is." And they say, "I can talk at 5 or I can talk later." And so now rather than having them just ignore a call, now they're telling us when it's okay for us to call them. And they're much more likely to answer it at that point because now they're expecting it. You can text something, conversational back, like, "Look forward to talking to you at 5. But the important thing is you didn't just get ignored. And there is a habit or a psychology of once you've ignored a number once and you see it come in again. And, if you're even doing something minutely interesting, like when that next call comes in, you have the tendency to ignore it again. So you don't want to get on that, into the box of, ignore all calls from this 619 number or from this whatever number it is. So my tip for changing your habits is start with texting. Even if you do pepper in calls later, a text to start is showing care for your prospects and showing that you care about how they want to communicate.
Yeah, and I mean, I think these, if you can go back one slide, the statistics kind of speak for themselves. Just the response rate on text is tremendous compared to phone calls. And, just that statistic alone, 90% of text messages are read within the first 3 minutes. You get that instant response. It's just interesting. You could call someone, they don't pick up, but if you text them, they have a tendency to check the message and respond right away. So if you want quick responses back, that's really the best manner, which we found.
Yeah, and like the deal is not going to be done through text, right? Like we're not going to take it all the way through here, but we are going to have a warmer reception, and we're going to have a lower drop off of people who just completely ignore you, right? So we're not talking about forever on text. We do want to get on the phone eventually, or we do want to meet them in person eventually, but it's a good good transition.
Agree.
So the second habit that we came up with, and this is maybe just as important, is letting leads sit. So talk about response times, Daniel. What do you guys see? What do you recommend with Shape? How do you guys set your customers up?
Absolutely. So it depends on the marketing type. I mean, referrals are a little bit more relationship based, so those are fine if you get to them a little later. But if you're doing advertising online, or if you're doing any type of social media advertising, these are people that have instant gratification needs to get their questions answered right away. So what we're finding is that there's also algorithms built in to Google and Facebook or Instagram. So if you click on an ad, you are now basically going to be served up additional advertisements from that type of company or those type of products. So if you don't respond to that person quickly, then they're going to get served up other ads, and you now have unwanted competition. So that being said, speed to contact is paramount. So having the right tools to be able to respond quickly and answer those questions for those potential clients, I mean, that's going to make a huge difference in conversions.
Yeah, that's a great point about competition. We watched The Social Dilemma, and just I was thinking not even just competition for other, with other competing products, but competition for your time from other apps and other things that your smartphone pulls you away from. Like, they're all designed to take their eyeballs.
That's right.
Right. So if you're, if 1 second you're thinking about refinancing, maybe it's something that you're interested in, maybe you want to get some rates, but then you fill out a form and there's no contact made. And now something else takes your attention. You're on Amazon, or you're on TikTok, or wherever you are. And now when your phone rings, you're kind of like, oh yeah, like you're not at peak interest anymore, at the very least. Right. So that's another reason to increase speed to lead. So what Daniel and I agreed, at the very least, there should be automation set up. So if you're not able to get to them yourselves, you should have something going out to them right after they inquire, so that at least there's a point of reference, that they have an email or that they have a text message from you that they can reference. But even better would be to have somebody, if you're not available, to have somebody be there to do it. So whether that's a virtual assistant, that this is kind of where Verse comes in. Verse does this, but not everybody's a fit for Verse. Not everybody has the lead volume, or not everybody it's not going to be a fit for everyone. But if you're planning on converting at the highest level, and if each lead or converted lead is worth a decent amount of money, this problem is one of the biggest to solve.
Absolutely. And there was a question asked about opt-ins, or, the opt-in rights for text messages. So if it's an inquiry that they have they've, filled that online, they've essentially opted in. And so you have the ability to text them at that point. Now, there's also a reply stop to opt out in the text messages from Shape. So they do have that ability to respond back with stop, and then that would remove them from receiving any future text messages. So, we're very sensitive to that. We want to stay in compliance and respect everyone's privacy.
Absolutely. The third habit, and this is probably something you're passionate about, Daniel, I know, is your database. So, right, you have a list of past clients. What I mean by database is either past clients you've done business with before, or leads that didn't convert for whatever reason in the past. So ignoring your database is going to be hugely detrimental to your business in 2021. There's a lot of people who are going to be needing help again, or going to be needing, are there for referrals. So talk a little bit about database, Daniel, and just kind of your experience with what are the best ways to reach out, and what are the best reasons to give to make that connection again.
Absolutely. I mean, there is definite gold in your database. You just need the proper tools to mine the gold from that. So utilizing a company like Verse to, leverage their concierge service to tee up appointments and deals for you, that's one way. And then, of course, having a proper CRM that can help you to kind of parse data and organize it in a way where it's very identifiable for low-hanging fruit opportunities. Giving you one example would be, like, for instance, the mortgage industry. You could do a rack and stack based on interest rates, and then you could kind of find out that these are people with higher interest rates, and then you can go after those people that have a higher interest rate because the rates are so favorable now. Or maybe these are people that have inquired in the past for other products or services that you offer, like in solar or whatever it may be. And so having the ability to transparently see those opportunities, that's what our tools are designed to do. And, and the concierge service that's provided by Verse, it's going to uncover these opportunities and tee them back up, right? So now you have the opportunity to stay at the forefront of their minds and basically reach back out, and so you can, earn their business.
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of the probably 9 out of 10 of the clients who come to Verse or that are interested in kind of having us, take over new lead engagement and new lead qualification. Like if they're coming to us and are interested in future engagement, it means that they probably have failed in the past with, lead sources that they've already, had run through their system. Or so almost everybody comes to us and says, at some point in the conversation says, well, what about the leads from the last couple of months? I would say, and so Verse has a way to upload leads that, from the past that didn't convert. You do have to be careful, right, Daniel, with TCPA compliance and making sure you're not throwing in leads from last year that never responded, or, those opt-ins expire. But, if they are, there's some clients who we work with who will try to work their leads for, a certain amount of days, and then we'll have them come to Verse for follow-up or to use another channel for engagement. But anyway, you do want to schedule check-ins and tasks in the CRM, to keep yourself on a schedule and reach out to past clients. And then I would recommend considering a text strip that adds some kind of value or checks back in. And if they're not interested in picking up the phone, maybe they'll text back. So that's a recommendation that we always give.
Absolutely. And not everyone's going to be ready today. So you can inform them, give them something to do research and due diligence on. But, there's a lot of information online. However, those who are staying consistently in touch with these people are, as I mentioned before, staying at the forefront of their minds. And so when they're ready, then they'll be reaching out to you at that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you've already spent the money to generate the lead. You've already put all the work into getting those people to fill out their information. It'd be a shame for someone else to take it at the end because you weren't, actively dripping on them. The fourth one and this one, maybe undervalued, the work-life imbalance, as we say, like, with people working from home particularly, but just kind of in general, if you're in one of the verticals that Shape serves or that we serve, which is, solar, home services, real estate, mortgage, these kind of jobs where you're kind of expected to be responding to leads, especially inbound leads or new leads at kind of all hours. Because, when are people looking at real estate, or when are people, considering, new home services or solar for their home? It's usually based on what we've seen, about half and half, in normal hours and after hours, right?
Right, so, exactly. Yeah.
Well, so, like the idea that you're tied to your phone if a new lead comes in at 7:00 and, you're having dinner, and, if you're following the rules that we've set out, you got to be on those leads fast. So you want to set yourself up for an end of work day. I know that's hard. I know particularly people in the mortgage and real estate world are rolling their eyes, but there has to be, and that's good for current clients that you're working with that are likely to close. But for you to spend, for you to take time away from your family to engage a new lead that, a certain percentage of are just going to be, tire kickers and not interested, isn't really fair. And that's kind of what we're hoping, through a CRM or through Verse or through technology, that we can free up some of that time so that you can actually be present with your family.
Right. And I think leveraging technology is one of the key elements, because if you're able to, use some tools that we have, such as pre-recorded voicemails, if you use click to dial, if you have automated emails and text messages, and you're using the services that Verse offers, then you're able to save a few minutes here, a few minutes there. Minutes turn into hours, hours turn into days, days turn into weeks. So really, it's exponentially going to help you in your productivity.
Yeah, and we made a couple of bullet points here of kind of tips on how to do that. So, for after hours and weekends, you might consider having a different process or a different message go out, meaning you want to set expectations of, if the text usually says someone will be right with you, or if the voicemail that gets dropped says we'd love to work with you, let me know if there's a good time today, but it's 11 p.m. or something, that may not be a fit. So just make sure that when you're putting your automation together, that you're setting expectations. And if you are, having either a VA or somebody you work with, to help book appointments for you or qualify leads, just make sure that it's clear that, you matter to us. We want to get to you, let's book an appointment for the next day, or we'll be reaching out tomorrow morning or something like that. So just making sure that there's an expectation of an after hours, like the prospects understand that you're not going to be calling them at night, but they do love if you have the ability to have a quick conversation and maybe get to the next step via text message or, a quick email conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
And the last one, this is where you're going to shine here, Daniel, because this is I talked to, I don't know, we talked to different people on the spectrum of, doing 250 leads a month or doing 5,000 leads a month. But I'm shocked at some of the mid-sized businesses that they don't necessarily have every one of their lead sources going into the CRM, that it's not set up completely correctly. And they go, yeah, I got to get on the phone with that, with whatever the CRM is, or I got to get on the phone with this lead source and try to get that hooked up. But God, you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, at how many people have leads, going in, coming from a certain source, but are going to a spreadsheet and are not getting into the CRM, or they're dumping them, in big piles, one upload at a time, rather than having them automatically go into the CRM where they can go into different flows. But do you want to speak to this, Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a previous life, I used to be in the lead generation industry. So leads are one of the most targeted audience that you can get, right? So if you're generating leads from your, website or social media advertising, or even if you're getting referrals, these are very interested people who have raised their hand and they have intent. So now, if you are trying to use a manual process, it's like trying to catch water with your open hands rather than using a bucket to capture that water. So there's going to be a lot of fallout, and it's not your fault. It's just you're not using the right tools once again. So it's imperative to use technology to have those leads being fed into, so you can get alerts via email, text, or pop-up within the system to let you know that, hey, you should be calling these people. The other element is prioritization. So you can now sort and organize your leads in the manner in which they should be called. So now you're creating a lead score. So you're sorting and organizing these leads, and you're prioritizing your day where you're calling the lowest hanging fruit first. And so in this way, you can better manage your day-to-day habits.
Yeah. And I always say this, like, call your rep or email whoever your account executive is at your CRM, and like tell them what you want. It's it's part of the setup. It's part of what you're paying for, is to make sure. And 9 times out of 10, it'll be like, oh, sure. You're like, hey, can I get these leads to go from here to there? And you go, oh yeah, sure. Let me get that done for you, and it'll be done, within a day or two. Like, it's usually not a huge ask, but it's just one of those. It's like the coffee cup rolling around in the back of the car or something that you just don't pick up. It's one of those things you should just get it done, right?
Right, exactly. And for those who work with referrals, I mean, part of the benefits of using a system like Shape is that it's going to get back in touch with the referral parties as well. So not only are you, reaching out to that prospect, but also you can report back to the referral partner or the source and let them know what's going on. So now they're kept in the know. And so they'll really appreciate that. And that's how you get more and more referrals.
Yeah. And the other piece, which is something that I think is undervalued, and it's on our dashboard, but it allows you to, if as long as you have all the lead sources going into the CRM, and as long as they have correct sourcing data, and you're able to differentiate between all the different lead sources, then you can start actually tracking engagement, right? So you can track how what's the response rate from this particular source, what's the overall conversion rate from this source to sale, and then you can actually start making decisions based on real data where you're going to spend your advertising dollars. And you can't do that if things are mixed up, right? If you're loading a spreadsheet into your CRM once every 2 weeks or something, that you're just never going to get the right information. So the Verse dashboard will allow you to do that. You can differentiate by lead source, and then we can track how many of them are actually turning into, qualified appointments. And then that information will also track back into the Shape CRM.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
It's important to have your ducks in a row, right?
Right, exactly. And sometimes it's not very easy to figure out how that should be. So that's where experience comes into play, where if you utilize a CRM, we already have these kind of prescriptive methodologies built out. And so leveraging, rule-based distribution, if you have a team to, parse the leads out to the appropriate reps, so you're getting the right leads to the right reps at the right time. And then also leveraging prioritization to sort and organize these leads. So, basically you now have a higher propensity to close those low-hanging fruit leads. These are all elements that are kind of native, built into our system. So we would work with every single client, understand their business, and then figure out a configuration that works for them, and then create a cadence, a contact strategy that's built around their business practices. And then we can also introduce some best practices that we found to be more successful for a lot of our clients, and we can share that with you. So it's a collaboration between, working with our technology and working with your company and how you're currently doing things and how we can see that there's improvements.
Do you find people creating different flows for different lead sources within Shape? Do you find like people are fine tuning it that
Absolutely.
that extreme?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because a referral should be treated differently than an internet lead. And so you can have different contact strategies, different email campaigns, different messaging, going out. The frequency of how often you have touch points with them, that will also be modified based on the marketing campaign. And I think that's just being smart, because, everyone responds in a different way. And so you can't necessarily have a cookie cutter way to, respond to every single lead source. And so if you take the time to make those customizations and personalize the messaging, that's going to make a huge difference.
And what percentage of people do you think, utilizing like all available pieces? Meaning, how many people are A/B testing different email campaigns, like let's say from the same source, or different outreach campaigns? How many people are actually paying attention to it like that, versus people who are kind of interested in just like, put it on autopilot, I don't want to think about it, let him, you guys know what you're doing, go ahead. What's the percentage of people who are actually doing that?
So it's generally the larger companies or the SMBs, right? Small, medium businesses that are that have staff that can really just hone in on those type of metrics, that are utilizing those type of multivariate A/B testing on various different campaigns. But I would say a vast majority, they want a plug and play, ready to go, out of the box system. And so we do, for that very reason, have a best practices workflow and systemic way of contacting these prospects and leads. So we already introduce a ready to go best practices system where they could just, pretty much plug into, get trained. And then from there, you could start making minor tweaks and adjustments as needed. So that's generally how people are using our system is, they'll get into Shape, they'll get the system running, and they'll start making some money and closing deals, and then they'll start making adjustments as they see the results from these various different campaigns that we're running.
Yeah, and I'm sure probably volume makes a big difference, because you can't be making choices. If you're only doing 50 or 100 leads a month, it's really hard to extrapolate from such a small sample size, right? Like if you're going to split up, you're going to A/B test on 100 leads, you might come to the wrong conclusion without having a decent sample set. So I'm sure that probably plays into it.
It does. And that's why I think that's really more reserved for larger companies that have a bigger data set, so they could run more accurate queries on the data. But for the most part, I think you'll start at least seeing trends within the system. But again, that goes back to using a system, because how are you going to get this data? How are you going to get the reports? How do you have that visibility into what's working, what's not, or how many times should I contact a person, or how many times did I contact a person or not? So those are all visible within our CRM.
That brings up a funny point, or an interesting point, which is, for all the people who are one-man shops or small agencies or whoever they are who are using Shape right now, what you're saying is the more successful or bigger companies are paying attention to this stuff very in depth, and it might be like a fake it till you make it type thing, where one-man shops in smaller organizations where they're looking for a plug and play might want to start paying a little bit more attention, or might want to put this as a priority towards growing and scaling and becoming that, the SMB, or becoming a bigger company, because it does matter, right? It's one of those, like, you can start paying attention today, or you can pinch yourself for not doing it, in 6 months, right?
Right, exactly. And so the CRM is kind of like a system to better manage your day-to-day, but it's also to find these opportunities within your pipeline. So you're going to start realizing that there's unrealized or untapped opportunities in your pipeline and your database. So the only way you'll ever get to them is if you have that visibility to pop those to the top. So using things like lead scoring, using things like prioritization, that's going to make a world of difference, for your pipeline. And if you're a small shop and you're just using Excel spreadsheets, that's all done manually. It's going to be virtually impossible to do that.
Yeah.
So you have these tools available to you. It's 2020, almost 2021. Technology is there for you, so you can either adapt to it or miss out on opportunities.
Yeah, and I have to do the obligatory why Shape and Verse. We do think, the clients that we have that are mutual clients are seeing a lot of success, and we like what you guys are doing, and obviously, we like working in all these different verticals that you guys are in as well. So just wanted to throw up a couple of reasons why you'd want to use Shape and Verse. I'm going to have Megan throw up. Are there some Q&As, Megan? I saw one in there.
Yeah, we had one probably more specifically for you, Cross, about how often you should reach out to a lead that's not responding on any communication channel. Like, how do they go about nurturing that, or getting a connection with the lead? Do you contact them day one, and then how many times would you reach out to them day two? And do you reach out to them via call, text? How does that go?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think what we've landed on, the answer is it depends. It depends on when the lead comes in. So if the lead comes in at 10 o'clock at night, you don't want to set them up on automation to receive text 1, and then 15 minutes later text 2, and then an hour later text 3, right? Because now it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're receiving text. So obviously there should be, it depends on time of day. But I think our first text goes out, and within 20 seconds, and if they're unresponsive, another one goes out 20 minutes later, another one goes out an hour later. We're fairly aggressive in day 1 through day 5. And it's because, they're at peak interest at this point, and we're wanting to get in touch with them while they're thinking about it. And to Daniel's point, while we're maybe not dealing with any competition yet. So the total outreaches in day 1 is usually, I think, 4. We send an email and we send 3 or 4 text messages in day 1. Again, our text messages are aimed at offering a call or a text. So we're kind of just letting them know that we're here for them, but also that we'd like to talk with them, right? We want to balance between being aggressive and being nice and courteous, right?
Yeah,
Do you have any
exactly.
input on
And
that?
to add to that, to add to that, I just want to share that it depends on the marketing campaign. So like I said before, referrals should be treated differently than internet leads. And so you can create these various different variances in the contact strategies based upon that. So, your business best. And so through Verse and through Shape, if you leverage both those systems, then you'll have kind of a greater recipe for success.
Yep.
There was one other question in the chat, and it was more for you, Daniel Kim, regarding Shape. Someone asked if there's a projected date for the Shape app to start. Also asking if it would allow them to respond to a text message or see who's calling, so they're not tied to their computer and can answer outside of office hours.
So we have taken this slower time of the year, December, to do some of our programming, and we've created additional features like a portal, and so that required us to kind of make the system a little bit more robust as far as the app. So it's projected in January. I don't have an exact date, but 2021 will have that app available in, I would say, at the very latest first quarter. Yes, there's going to be push notification, and you'll be able to respond back. So I think people will be very pleased. In the meantime, I mean, the system is 100% responsive. So you can go to a web browser on your phone, log into the system that way, and you have full access to the complete system. So people are doing that right now.
Cool. Well, thank you, Daniel. I think that's it, right, Megan? There weren't any other questions?
I don't think so, unless anyone has any last minute ones. Thought that was super great and insightful information. I think there's a lot to be said about utilizing technology with your leads. It's efficient, it works. It's why most of the biggest companies use it. And, I think there is validity to making changes, especially going into 2021, where it's a little less sprung on you like it was in March for everyone, having to adjust your strategy. So I think it's definitely useful for people to expand their current strategies.
Well, well said. And Daniel, I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for chatting with me about lead habits and any questions you guys have. I know Megan posted a link to get a Verse demo and just see what we do, and also a link to the Shape demo to see what Shape can offer. So hopefully we can connect you that way. If you want to reach out to me personally, dcross@verse.io, or hit me up on LinkedIn. Daniel, do you want to give out your email address as well?
Absolutely. So it's DKIMM@setshape.com. That's S as in Sam, E as in Edward, T as in Tom. So setshape.com. And same thing. I mean, I'll make myself available. You can look me up on LinkedIn, and we're really here just to help. So I'm very pleased to be partnering with Verse. Thank you, Daniel and Megan, for setting this up, and excited to be working with you.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for coming. Thanks for attending.